Hello, today we're going to make 6 cards using just one stamp set called Lotus Bouquet from Paper Rose Studio. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Donna, an Australian who swapped life in rural Australia for the bustle of Tokyo, Japan. Let's make some cards together. Because I know that I'm going to make multiple cards, I'm doing all of my stamping at once at the beginning. I've started with a nice clean stamp and the Versamark ink. Once I've stamped, I'm going to shake over some white embossing powder and heat set that. For this next card, I'm going to use an alcohol ink background, and so I've laid the stamp packaging on top of the Yupo paper so that I can get a rough idea of where I want to drop in the different colours. There's a wonderful thing called alcohol lift ink that you can use to take some colour off an alcohol background, but I don't own it. And so what I'm doing here is using a piece of packaging from some candles that I've bought and a paper towel with a tissue on top to make my own temporary stamp pad. I'm putting just a little bit of the Copic solution onto that and then pressing my stamp down onto it to get a little bit of that solution onto the stamp. Once I've done that, I quickly take out the little stamp pad that I've made and slot in my Yupo paper and stamp that down. I've repeated that a few times until I've transferred as much ink as I possibly can. It wasn't until my second time of lifting the ink that I remembered that I could use that ink that I'd lifted to make another image on a clean piece of Yupo paper. So I started doing that from the second image. I would have got a brighter image if I'd remembered to do this right from the start, but it still turned out very nicely. And here are the 2 panels side by side, ready to be made into cards. Next, I got onto stamping my black images using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because this is Copic safe. And now onto the colouring. This first card has white embossing powder on watercolour paper, and I'm going to watercolour it using distress inks. The colours I've chosen are Picked Raspberry, Twisted Citron, Stormy Sky and Speckled Egg. For each petal, I'm going to drop a little bit of concentrated colour near the middle of the petal and some clean water towards the outside of the petal and just kind of blend those until I've got something that I'm happy with. You can see in the picture that I use my washi tape over and over and over again till it's got almost no stick left in it. While I'm colouring, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of music which was composed by my son Darcy, and I hope you enjoy it. While that panel dries, I'm going to move on to the Copic colouring. You can see the colours that I used in that picture, but I'll also mark them on the screen. Please excuse the death grip on the pen. This is a pen hold that teacher after teacher tried to break me off, but it turns out I was a stubborn little thing and I still have that grip to this day. Once again, I'll just show you the basics of how I coloured this image so that the video doesn't run too long. For this next card, I'm making a mask. I've used some low-tack paper. You can use post-it tape or something like that. And because this stamp has some middle bits, it's perfectly okay to cut your mask into several sections so that you can cut out the small spaces between the different stems. This card actually started with a bit of a mistake. I meant to use the white embossing powder on watercolour paper, but I accidentally grabbed a piece of regular card, and so this is my attempt to see what I can make of it. Once the mask is securely pressed down, I'm going to ink blend over this piece with speckled egg and bundled sage distress inks, leaving the actual flowers white. As I pull up the masks, you can see the beautiful crisp edges, but unfortunately what you can't see is the details on the flowers, and so I decide to go in with my coloured pencils and just do a little hint of colour. That way you can make out the petals and the folds on the leaves. Now here's what I meant to do with the ink blending. The image is stamped in black, and you can see that those little masks have stood up perfectly to being used again. To remove the mask a little bit more carefully the second time, But this time you can see all the beautiful details of the stamp that I wanted to be there the first time. Finally, let's get on with constructing the cards. As I trimmed this panel down, I was careful to save 2 strips that I could use on another card in a little bit. I trimmed all of the panels except one to be slightly smaller than an A4 card. For this one, I've used my cutter, but for quite a few of them, I've used the Stitch Rectangles die from Paper Rose Studio. This die is actually available in both Australian sizes and US sizes. Because I'm living in Japan and I'm getting my paper from America at the moment, this particular one is the US sized stitched rectangle die. I'm just using glue to stick that down and then popping something heavy on top so that it doesn't shift around. Today's heavy object of choice is my Misty. While the glue's drying, I'm going to prepare my sentiment. I have this happy birthday sentiment from the black and white sentiment strips from Paper Rose, and I'm just going to layer up a little bit of scrap paper from previous cards on the back to give it a bit of dimension. I sometimes use foam tape, but I also like to use up little scraps. Using pieces of paper also means that you have a lot of control over how much dimension you want on your card. And I've used the same steps to construct the next few cards as well. I'm going to construct a wraparound vellum strip for the ink background card. To do this, I've stamped birthday wishes from the stamp set onto a piece of vellum with Versamark ink and then heat embossed it in white. Once again, I've chosen to use old scraps of paper to give a bit of dimension to this card, and so you'll be able to see in a second just what a jigsaw puzzle of paper pieces I've ended up with on the back. Finally, the bonus card. When I lined up the card, I realised I could afford to take just a little bit more off my panel and have a bit more of the lovely bright colours showing. So I've done that and then just used glue to adhere all 3 parts to my card. And here's a look at all the cards that I've made. I'll leave you with some pictures of each of the cards. If you're interested in anything that I've used to make the cards, I'll leave some links in the description box below. I'll make sure to leave links for different geographical regions so that you can have a look wherever's most convenient for you. While you're here, I'd love some feedback. Would you prefer this type of video where I jump between different processes to show you many cards? Or are you someone that would rather see one card made straight through from start to finish? Let me know in the comments below.